I can't get this scene out of my head, even a year after I first saw it.
What about you? Do you like girls?
I don't know.
Boys?
I think that I like TV shows.
It didn't make sense why at first, but I had to pause here, and for a moment, just sit there. There's something I found so unsettling about this quiet interaction. Maybe because I could see myself right there, in the screen's reflection. On Cinema at the Cinema is a movie review web series hosted by Tim Heidecker and featuring the expertise of Greg Turkington. At first, it's easy for most of your attention to be drawn to Tim, whose chaotic personal life starts to seep more and more into the show. It becomes very clear early on that Tim doesn't even watch the movies he reviews, and cares more about using the series as a platform to launch his other ventures or share his inflammatory political takes.
I'm formally requesting the United States government try Hillary Clinton and her husband to stand trial and be executed.
But I'm not here to talk about Tim Heidecker. I'm here to talk about his recurring guest and self-proclaimed movie buff, Greg Turkington. What separates Greg from Tim is that Greg actually has a passion for movies, an obsession with them. But despite that, he has no insightful film knowledge whatsoever. He believes that VHS is the best format for watching and preserving films. With all his heart, he genuinely thought The Hobbit would take home the Oscar for Best Picture, because he really, really liked it. Like Tim, he scores nearly every single movie the highest rating possible, unable to distinguish the difference in quality between Django Unchained and The Smurfs.
So I'm going to give it 5 blue bags of popcorn, or 5 bags of blue popcorn. I guess the bag should be blue, not the corn itself, for The Smurfs.
Most importantly, his empty reviews forego any analysis of the films and tend to focus exclusively on inconsequential details, like their titles and their running times.
93 minutes. We had one last week that was 93 minutes. That's
An hour and a half.
hour and a half, well, plus 3 minutes.
Anytime Tim steers the conversation to something else going on in his life, Greg desperately tries to steer it back to talking about movies, because that's all Greg can talk about. He's obsessed with sharing pointless movie factoids. Movies are his entire life, and really, he knows nothing about them.
The thing that makes me mad is this show is supposed to be about movies, and that's what we talk about on this show is movies.
I went to film school, and you know what? I met a lot of Gregs. On some days, I feel like I am Greg. I Saw the TV Glow, 100 Minutes, is a horror film that follows a boy named Owen, spellbound by a television show called The Pink Opaque. The series is about 2 psychically entangled girls, Isabel and Tara, who used their powers to fight supernatural threats and an overarching villain called Mr. Melancholy. Something about this Buffy-inspired teen drama captivates Owen, but the show airs too late at night for him to watch live. He relies on an older schoolmate named Maddie, a superfan of the show, to help him catch the episodes. He becomes hooked, and it isn't long before the Pink Opaque begins to dominate his life. He watches every tape. He's enraptured by the storyline. He identifies with the characters. His mother eventually passes away from cancer, and yet that feels like a footnote in his life compared to the Pink Opaque. To say that Owen and Maddie are obsessed is an understatement.
Sometimes the Pink Opaque feels more real than real life.
Eventually, reality and fiction start to blend. Is the Pink Opaque really just a TV show, or is it more? Does Owen identify with Isabel so much because he actually is her? And everything he's been experiencing is an illusory prison called the Midnight Realm, created by Mr. Melancholy as he buries Isabel alive until she slowly and painfully dies?
What about you? Do you like girls?
I think that I like TV shows.
Owen and Maddie's friendship is based exclusively on their mutual fixation with the pink opaque. It's the subject of all their conversations. Beyond that, they don't seem to share anything in common, and any attempts to bridge that gap awkwardly fall flat. Owen certainly has a deeper connection with the pink opaque than Greg Turkington does with The Hobbit. Unlike Greg's cinema obsession, Owen's television obsession actually engages with the material beyond trivialities. But that scene where Maddie asks Owen if he likes boys or girls and he can't answer without redirecting it to TV, it sure isn't much different than Greg steering every conversation back to the movies. It's all they can talk about. It's their entire framework for understanding the world. And you know what? I get it. Here I am talking about media obsession through the lens of other media. There's a reason I centered this very channel around media analysis. I love this stuff, and if you're watching videos like mine, you're probably in the same boat. Understanding me without understanding my love for films, shows, and video games, it's impossible. And to be honest, I think it can cross into the territory of obsession. Like Greg, I have a habit of filling empty silence by talking about movies when I don't know where else to take the conversation. Like Owen, I get sucked into fictional worlds at what sometimes seems like the expense of the real one. These portrayals certainly don't show it in a positive light, but is escapism like this really so bad? As much as he tries to keep on cinema about the movies, Greg's personal life does occasionally seep through as well. And he has a middling, uneventful life outside the studio. Despite his claims of being an AMC certified movie expert, he really just works at an AMC theater. He doesn't have any friends besides Mark, and you could hardly call that a healthy friendship, and it might involve insurance fraud. It's a long story. When Tim shares his experiences of staying at Greg's place, we find out that Greg doesn't even seem to do anything with his free time besides watch movies, back to back, all day, all night.
Staying at Greg's apartment's been an interesting experience. This guy, no question about it, is a movie buff because he's constantly watching movies, and it's driving me nuts a little bit.
Movies give Greg purpose. His obsession with them gives him something to be passionate about. Even if he's wrong about most of what he says, even if he only focuses on trivial things, even if it takes up all of his life, who cares, right? Let the man dress up as Bilbo and talk about The Hobbit winning Best Picture. It makes him happy. When I watched On Cinema, I did so while I was working a soul-sucking job. One that afforded me a lot of time, but was extremely unfulfilling. Having something like On Cinema to entertain myself with, it made things a lot easier. Movies, TV shows, games, whatever. They all give me something to look forward to in a particularly unhappy period in my life. One where I feel like I'm heading nowhere. Similarly, Owen in I Saw the TV Glow feels alienated by the world around him. He's an outsider who can't seem to fit in with anyone. The pink opaque gives something for Owen to be passionate about in his otherwise isolated life. It gives him a connection to another person. Certainly having a friend, even if it's only because of a TV show, is better than no friend at all. Most importantly, it's a window to view his own identity. He sees his experiences represented in Isabel. In fact, Owen actually is Isabel. All that deranged rambling about being trapped in the Midnight Realm isn't deranged rambling at all. The events of the pink opaque are real life for Owen, and therefore the show serves as a connection to his true identity. This point makes it clear that the film is very much an allegory for the transgender and even asexual experience. With that in mind, Owen's connection to the pink opaque is a link to his queerness, a part of himself desperate to be recognized and understood. Maybe that scene that stuck with me isn't actually unsettling at all. It shows how a television show helped Owen connect with a part of his sexual orientation. which in some ways is something I can relate to as well. I've talked on this channel about how certain media has impacted my views, or how I've seen myself and my struggles through fictional characters. And I don't think it's a coincidence that my favorite video was one I made to express my own queerness. I'd bet that each and every one of you watching has connected with the work of fiction that you've seen your experiences represented in. I Saw the TV Glow is a commentary on how our relationship with media, even if it's seen as extreme, can actually help us better see ourselves. Maybe media obsession isn't as pathetic or dangerous as I've been making it out to be. There's something else that comes to mind on this subject as well. Hypnospace Outlaw is a video game that takes place in the titular Hypnospace, in homage to the World Wide Web of the 90s, but this time operated entirely in your sleep. You're given the role of an enforcer, a moderator that exists to police hypnospace and report violations, like teenagers harassing each other, or a teacher committing copyright infringement by sharing her student's art of a cartoon character. Yeah, that one didn't feel good to do. As you work through each case, you're led to a wide variety of GeoCities-style personalized web pages, each flourished with animated GIF chaos and devoted to the user's specific obsessions, quirks, and fandoms. It'd be perfectly in line to see a fan page for the Pink Opaque show up here. Take, for instance, Linda's Library of Weird, a site dedicated to showcasing her love of horror movies, complete with reviews that don't seem all that different from Greg's. Although the early iteration of the internet that Hypnospace Outlaw is evoking is something I mostly only experienced the vestiges of, being a part of forums and discussions and fan communities was a staple of my internet experiences since as far back as I can remember. I posted in movie fan clubs, commented on gaming videos, took part on discussion threads of TV shows. That part of me hasn't changed. It's still predominantly where I spend my time online. I just became invested in different things. What I find most striking about Hypnospace Outlaw is the amount of humanity that each of these users are endued with. It all feels so earnest. They have their fixations, peculiarities, and angst, and sometimes it does get the better of them, but they're not portrayed as crazed or antisocial lunatics. Their sites are silly, but they're also authentic forms of self-expression. Here, your obsession is something to be celebrated, not ridiculed. As Linda writes on her page, "Some people may say I'm a little weird myself, but if you look deep inside, who isn't?" After thinking about the role of media in my own life and the way it's portrayed in Hypnospace Outlaws, I'm convinced that Greg and Owen might really be better off obsessed. It's harmless escapism that lights up their life, right? Well, there's the problem. Going with such a charitable interpretation is ignoring the very real damage their obsession inflicts on their lives. Greg's ego regarding his so-called film knowledge makes him stick by Tim, an unstable and dangerous man who ends up on trial for the murder of 20 kids. For legal purposes, I'm required to mention that Mr. Heidecker was not charged for any crime as the jury could not reach a unanimous decision. He even found a way to use the trial as a way to humiliate Greg. Tim has no respect for Greg and keeps ruining him and his aspirations. And much of what Greg is put through borders on torment. But he stays on the show anyway. There is a downside to Greg watching all of these movies but not having the media literacy to understand them. The Hobbit is a story of bravery and leaving your comfort zone. A lesson that Greg never learns. Greg never leaves the Shire, and he pays the price. When Maddie offers Owen a way out, a way to become Isabel again, he rejects it. Taking that leap is terrifying. As a result, his life without the Pink Opaque, without becoming his true self, is horrifying in its banality. It slowly kills him, draining him of everything. Despite his obsession, despite all the episodes he watched over and over again, Owen never confronts his feelings and never starts his journey of self-discovery. He gets a job, has a family, and, as he puts it, becomes a man, a productive member of society. But it's clear as day he's actually wasted his entire life being someone he isn't, and is deeply, deeply miserable for abandoning the promise offered by the pink opaque. Both Greg and Owen let themselves get trapped in the glow of their screens. They let their lives become stagnant. Maybe I can understand what I watch better than Greg can, but what good comes from liking all this media if I don't learn from it? If my love of media was truly enriching to me, I would be using the multitude of lessons they offer to improve myself and my situation, not as a way to avoid changing my life, like Owen. Their obsession, which could have helped them better understand themselves, is instead destructive. Something destructive happens in Hypnospace Outlaw too, the mind crash, a corruption in the operating system that results in the death of multiple users. However, it's not the result of users so obsessed they suffer the consequences of constantly being on their headsets or anything like that. It's the result of MerchantSoft, the company behind the invention. The users themselves, they're innocent. Their passions never spiral into destruction. And it's because these people haven't let their interests consume their entire being. Hypnospace Outlaw is a reminder that there's nothing wrong with having interests and hobbies you care about, as long as they don't take you over. Hypnospace only being accessed in their sleep might feel like it's an invasion of their life. But when you think about it, it creates a pretty clear delineation between their online life and their real life. It harkens back to the 90s internet being a place, somewhere that you can get away from and doesn't take over your outside life. There's a balance there. Greg has no balance. Owen has no balance. And I have no balance either. I upload videos to my YouTube channel talking about my obsessions just like the netizens of Hypnospace do on their web pages, but I never log off. If this were Hypnospace, I think I'd be asleep more than I'm awake. Awake. For such a depressing and downright suffocating movie, I Saw the TV Glow ends with an unexpectedly hopeful message scribbled in chalk in the middle of the road. There is still time. Even this late into his life, Owen seems to finally come to terms with what's inside of him, instead of pushing it away. There is still time for Owen to become the person he was meant to be. There is still time for Greg to leave the show and do something with his life. And that's really nice to think about, because it means there's still time for me too, to use everything I've learned and take those first steps to improve my life. Or I could just watch another episode.
I think that I like TV shows.